Hey, English 213. Welcome to my first and probably very last episode of Disney Discussions. As most of you know, I'm extremely passionate about Disney and I hope to work there one day. So, one of the things I do is I follow almost all of their different social media accounts. They have a various range because they have so many different branches of their company, such as Pixar, the theme parks, the animation studio. They have a wide variety of social media platforms, but for this project, I wanted to focus solely on the at Disney, just the plain whole company Disney. I decided to analyze their YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Through this, I found a lot of interesting things out about how Disney reaches their audience, and I really learned how they use the affordances of the platforms to kind of mend with their company and how they adapt to the different constraints that each platform has to offer. One of the most intriguing affordances I noticed when analyzing all of the different platforms of social media, I realized the most interesting to me personally was on Instagram. So on Instagram, there is the story feature, and now Instagram allows you to save your story, and your story will pop up in your bio. And as you can see, Disney now saves their stories, letting their users keep up with their movies, their news, the parks, and shopping, because they can always keep their audience engaged and looking at what's happening now, what was happening in the past, and what's happening in the future. And I thought this was extremely cool of how they're using that affordance of Instagram and tying it in with their company. And on Twitter, one of the affordances that I found really interesting was how much Disney uses the retweet system. I'll talk about that here later. One of the most intriguing affordances that I found on Facebook was how much Disney tries to use hyperlinks in their posts. They're mostly trying to get their users onto their blog, Oh My Disney. Maybe because Facebook has an older demographic and they like reading longer articles, so this is why they do this. Another thing I found really interesting on Facebook was this follow feature. As you can see, it allows you to watch a video that they shared, and at the same time, at the very bottom, you can see who actually posted it, and then you can follow that. Now, moving on to constraints. One of the most interesting constraints I found was how Disney has to adapt their videos on Instagram to fit within that 1 minute time span, because Instagram only allows videos to be 1 minute. And this was really intriguing because right now they are trying to do these screen to script videos where they're showing the movie happening but also showing what it says in the script. I think it's really trying to build a more personal connection with their audience, just showing them like, here's what we wrote, but here's what you watched. Just kind of like filling in that gap of where here's the writers, here's the movie, here's the audience, and it's filling in that missing gap, making this whole experience extremely personal, which I find really, really interesting. I also thought there would be some constraints on Twitter with the character amount, but I couldn't see any within the 5-day analysis that I did. Now, moving back to the screen to script videos that I was talking about, I think this brings us into a really interesting topic of multimodality and multitasking. In these videos, you're seeing the actual movie happening, while at the bottom, you're having to look at how they wrote it in the writing process. As you can see right now, you can be paying attention to the scene that's happening with Belle or the Beast, or you could be paying attention to the bottom. And what you don't notice is that you're actually multitasking by reading the bottom and looking at the top every so often and seeing how they connect. And combining this text and video is a form of multimodality. They released this video about nails from the movie Moana a little bit earlier on Instagram to reach that audience first. And kind of looking in with this video too, if you look at all of the captions from each platform, you see the use of rhetorical literacy a lot in the Instagram post. You're seeing that they're using 4 different emojis, and then in the other 2, there are none, which I find really interesting of how they're really including that rhetorical literacy on Instagram rather than Twitter or Facebook. While doing my observations on the social media, I realized that Instagram was one of the most interesting places to analyze. Another reason was because of this post right here. It looks normal, looks fine, and then I see that there's a tag button in the bottom, and I click on the tag button. I realized that they had tagged Mickey Mouse, and I was a little confused, but I went and clicked it, and they have a personal account for Mickey Mouse that they post on. I found this was really interesting because it goes into the topic of identity play and how we can become different people and act as different people on social media platforms or just online in general. And Disney is creating special accounts for its characters, such as Mickey Mouse, and then through another post I saw this week, they have a separate account for Pooh. Next was one of the most interesting things from the whole analysis, and that was how Disney adapted to the different online cultures of Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. One of the first things I noticed was that Disney was advertising for a new show on Freeform on Twitter, but not on any other social media platform. They know the advertisement for that show will do best on Twitter and getting to their audience. As I talked about earlier, one of the affordances Disney really likes to use on Twitter is their ability to retweet. One of the things they retweeted was this tweet from The View. The tweet is talking about how tomorrow there's going to be a special guest on The View, and they retweeted it on Twitter, but it was nowhere else to be seen on any social media platform. They're trying to pull in a younger audience by using their Twitter to watch The View. Disney uses the same post, but uses different captions depending on the social media. One example would be this GIF they posted on Facebook and Twitter. One says, "The voice inside sings a different song," that was on Facebook, and the other says, "Poor unfortunate soul," which was on Twitter. I thought this was really funny because Twitter users would understand the poor unfortunate soul because most Twitter users grew up with The Little Mermaid in their childhood. But on Facebook, with the older audience and kind of younger, they use "The Voice Inside Sings a Different Song," which is Moana, allowing more people to connect with that movie. So, if you haven't noticed, one thing I have not been talking about a whole lot is YouTube. During the 5 days that I analyzed, they released 3 YouTube videos. None of these videos were talked about on any platform or tried to be promoted on any platform. They kind of went unnoticed, and I thought that was really, really weird. But when you look at the amount of users and subscribers or followers, you see that YouTube only has 2 million, while the other ones are in like 11 million, 10 million followers. So I don't think they really use their YouTube as much as they do their other social media platforms, which is why they only release 3 videos. One of the most interesting things I found, personally, was on Facebook. It is a 360 VR video where you're allowed to look all the way around the room and see what's happening in a 360 point of view. I think this is really, really, really interesting because it puts a whole twist on digital storytelling. And then this kind of made me start thinking about the screen to text video and how I thought they were trying to fill in a gap of possibly wanting to connect their users more. And then you see this video and how they're trying to immerse their user in a 360 experience. And finally, I started thinking again about the identity play and how they're trying to create different accounts for different characters. And then I started thinking, the whole goal of all of their accounts is to become extremely personal with their users. They want to try to immerse their users in a experience that makes them feel more connected to the brand. After analyzing Disney's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube for 5 days, I realized they do a really good job with using the affordances available on the different platforms and also adapting to the constraints. I also realized that Disney's trying to become super personal with this form of digital media. With my future in mind and wanting to work for Disney, this project was extremely beneficial because I could see that Disney wants to be extremely personal within their usage of digital media. This project has opened my eyes to how Disney wants to create personal connections through different various platforms. Well, that's about all, folks. So, what are you going to do? Follow Mickey or follow Pooh? See ya!